The name is Heather Collins. I'm 31 years old. At 2:15 on a Saturday afternoon, my mother leaned across a row of folding chairs inside the Preston State University arena and told me not to ruin my brother's graduation by reminding people I was still taking night classes. She said it while smoothing the corner of the program on her lap, like she was correcting a wrinkle instead of cutting into her own daughter. The arena smelled like floor wax, warm bodies, and the faint buttery salt from the concession stand outside the south entrance. Thousands of people were filling the seats around us. Balloons bobbed over rows of families. Grandparents fanned themselves with commencement programs. Somewhere behind us, a baby cried, then stopped when someone shook a plastic rattle. The brass section of the university band was warming up near the far end of the floor, and every few minutes a trumpet note rose above the noise and then fell back into it. My brother, Ryan, was graduating that day with a bachelor's degree in business administration. That was what everyone in my family had come to celebrate. Or at least, that was what they thought. My father sat on my mother's other side, wearing the navy sport coat he pulled out for funerals, weddings, and any event where he wanted strangers to believe he had raised successful children. He had one arm stretched across the empty chair where Ryan's girlfriend had been sitting before she went to find coffee. His thumb kept tapping the rolled program against his knee. My mother, Susan Collins, wore a cream dress, pearl earrings, and the tight smile she used when she was nervous about appearances. She had spent the morning reminding everyone to take good photos, not block other families in the aisle, and please not mention Heather's school situation if anyone asked what I had been up to. My school situation, that was what they called it. Not my degree, not my work, not the 4 years of night classes after 10-hour shifts. Not the online lectures I watched at midnight with cold coffee beside my laptop. Not the statistics exam I took in my car during my lunch break because the office Wi-Fi went down. Not the cap and gown hanging under a garment cover in the faculty staging room behind Section C, with my name printed on the card tucked into the sleeve. My school situation. I sat still with my hands folded around my small black purse. Inside, it was a folded letter from the dean's office, a tassel wrapped in tissue, and the silver fountain pen my grandmother had given me when I enrolled for the first time at 27. Across the aisle, my Aunt Beverly waved at someone from church. My cousin Megan was taking selfies. My father leaned forward to scan the graduates gathering below. Then my mother said, softly but clearly, "Today is about Ryan. Please remember that." I looked at her. I know what today is. She lowered her voice further. "I mean it, Heather. Your brother worked hard for this. We are not going to have you making awkward comments about your little night program." My father exhaled through his nose. "Your mother's right," he said. "Just let him have one day where the family looks normal." Normal. That word had done more damage in our family than yelling ever could. I looked down at the program in my mother's lap. She had circled Ryan's department with a pale pink fingernail. Business administration. Afternoon ceremony. College of Management and Professional Studies. She had not read the honors section on the inside cover. If she had, she might have seen the first line under Distinguished Adult Learner Recognition. Heather Marie Collins. Summa cum laude. Departmental honors. Student speaker nominee. My brother laughed from the graduate lineup below. He was standing with his friends near the aisle, his black gown unzipped, his honor cord slightly twisted, because my mother had insisted on buying him one from the campus bookstore, even though he had not earned university honors. She said it looked nice in pictures. Ryan said nobody would know the difference. I knew the difference. I had known the difference for years. My father leaned closer. "Don't sit there with that face," he said. I turned to him. "What face?" "The one where you act like everyone has wronged you." I looked at the band setting their sheet music on stands. "No one has to wrong me today," I said. "The program is already printed." He frowned. "What does that mean?" Before I could answer, the lights dimmed slightly, and a voice came through the speakers asking everyone to take their seats for the start of the commencement ceremony. My mother patted my knee once. "Good," she whispered. "Just be gracious." I looked at her hand on my knee. Her wedding ring had turned slightly sideways, the diamond facing her palm. I remembered that ring tapping against our kitchen table when she told me 4 years earlier that going back to school at my age was a little embarrassing if we're being honest. I gently moved her hand off my leg. "I can do gracious," I said. What they did not know was that at 6:10 that morning, before my parents even woke up, I had already checked in with the registrar. What they did not know was that Dean Margaret Ellison had reviewed my speech card herself. What they did not know was that the woman sitting quietly beside them in the family section was not there only as Ryan's older sister. I was there as the first graduate being honored that afternoon. The procession began. The faculty entered first in velvet-trimmed robes, then the administration, then the candidates by department. Everyone clapped. My mother lifted her phone to record Ryan walking in. My father stood halfway, blocking the woman behind him, until my aunt tugged his jacket. I stayed seated, not because I was ashamed, because I had been told to wait until the dean called my name. And I had learned, after 4 years of night classes and 31 years in that family, that timing matters. But before I tell you what happened when the dean stepped to the podium and read my name first, I need to take you back to the beginning. And while I do, tell me where you are watching from and what time it is there. If you have ever worked quietly for something while your own family treated your effort like a source of embarrassment, leave a comment. And if stories about women who were betrayed, underestimated, and quietly took their power back mean something to you, subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. This is that story. I grew up in Canton, Ohio, in a split-level house on Alder Street with brown shutters, a cracked basketball hoop over the garage, and a kitchen table that seemed to collect every argument our family did not finish. My father, Richard Collins, sold commercial insurance for 30 years and treated respectability like a second job. He believed in firm handshakes, clean cars, tucked-in shirts, and never letting neighbors know more than necessary. He was not a loud man most of the time. He did not need to be. His disappointment was quieter and more efficient. One look over the top of his glasses could make a room rearrange itself. My mother, Susan, worked part-time as a receptionist at a dental office until Ryan entered high school. Then she became what she called the family coordinator. She scheduled appointments, remembered birthdays, organized church potlucks, and made sure Christmas cards went out with a photo where everyone looked successful enough. My mother loved us, but she loved the appearance of having raised us almost as much as she loved us ourselves, maybe more. Ryan was 3 years younger than me, and from the day he was born, he seemed to arrive with applause built around him. He was the baby, the boy, the charming one, the one who could forget permission slips, miss curfew, drop classes, lose wallets, and still be described as, quote, finding his way. He had bright blue eyes, a quick smile, and the easy confidence of someone who had never had to wonder whether a chair at the table was meant for him. I was Heather. Responsible Heather. Serious Heather. Difficult Heather, when my responsibility developed a memory. I got good grades because I liked school. Not because anyone pushed me. I liked the smell of sharpened pencils, the neatness of lined paper, the way a math problem had rules that did not shift because someone else cried. I liked teachers who wrote comments in the margins. I liked libraries. I liked knowing that if I studied, the result had a chance to match the effort. At 13, I wanted to become a teacher. At 16, I wanted to study literature. At 18, I wanted to go to Preston State University and live in a dorm with brick walls and bad cafeteria eggs, like the older girls from church who came home at Thanksgiving seeming changed in a way I could not yet name. Then my father lost a major client, my mother's hours were cut, and Ryan needed a private baseball coach because he had real potential. College became complicated. Not for Ryan. For me. My parents sat me down at the kitchen table in March of my senior year. The forsythia outside the window had just started turning yellow. I remember because I kept looking at it while my father explained that financial realities required maturity. "We can help with community college," he said. "For the first 2 years." My mother touched my hand. "You can live at home and save money, it's sensible." I said, "What about Preston?" My father sighed. "Heather, this is exactly the kind of unrealistic thinking we're trying to avoid." I got in. We know. I got a partial scholarship. A partial scholarship still leaves a bill. Ryan, who was 15, came into the kitchen during the conversation, opened the refrigerator, and asked if anyone had seen his batting gloves. My mother stood up immediately to help him look. That is the kind of moment that teaches you more than the actual words. I went to community college. I told people it was my choice because that was easier than explaining how quickly a dream can become inconvenient when your family has already assigned the money elsewhere. Community college was not a failure. I want to say that clearly. I had good teachers, I worked hard, I learned. But I also worked 30 hours a week at a grocery store and drove Ryan to practice because my mother said I was already out anyway. I studied in my car between shifts. I wrote papers at the kitchen table while Ryan's friends shouted at video games in the basement. After 2 years, I planned to transfer. Then my mother had gallbladder surgery. Then my father said the timing was bad. Then Ryan graduated high school and got accepted to Preston State with a sports management interest he later changed 3 times. Suddenly, there was money again. Not unlimited money, but enough. Enough for dorm deposits, enough for meal plans, enough for school sweatshirts, enough for my mother to cry in the campus bookstore because our son is really doing it. I was 21 then, working full-time as an administrative assistant at a medical billing company, taking 2 classes when I could afford them, and telling myself resentment was ugly. Maybe it is. But ignored unfairness does not become kindness. It becomes a quiet rot inside the person asked to swallow it. Ryan lasted 1 year at Preston the first time. He failed 2 classes, changed majors, came home for a semester, went back, left again, worked at a sporting goods store, then eventually returned at 28, after his girlfriend at the time told him she was tired of dating a man with potential as his main occupation. My parents called that return brave. When I mentioned taking classes again, my mother said, "At your age?" I was 27. I had just been promoted to office manager at the medical billing company. I handled insurance submissions, patient payment plans, denial codes, department schedules, vendor contracts, and the kind of paperwork my boss only appreciated when it went wrong, and I fixed it before anyone noticed. I made decent money. I rented a small apartment with a balcony facing a parking lot and a maple tree. I had a reliable car, a coffee maker that sputtered, and a stack of books beside my bed I rarely had energy to read. But I still wanted the degree. Not because I thought it would magically change my life. Because I had never stopped wanting to finish something that had been treated as optional when it belonged to me. The symbolic object in this story is my grandmother's silver fountain pen. It belonged to my mother's mother, Eleanor Graham, who taught high school English for 38 years and never allowed anyone to say "just a girl" in her presence without making them repeat themselves. Grandma Eleanor was not soft, but she was precise. She wore cardigans with wooden buttons, corrected newspaper grammar in red ink, and kept a row of fountain pens in a small cedar box on her desk. She died when I was 26. At the funeral, my mother cried loudly enough that people turned. Ryan left early because he had a headache. I stayed late with my aunt and helped clear the church hall. A week later, Aunt Beverly called me. "Your grandmother left something for you," she said. I drove to her house after work. She handed me a slim black case. Inside was a silver fountain pen with my grandmother's initials engraved on the cap. "She said you were the only one who still wrote like words mattered," Aunt Beverly said. I cried in my car before driving home. When I enrolled at Preston State's adult degree completion program a year later, I signed the paperwork with that pen. It was a small act. No one clapped. No one took a photo. No one posted about being proud. But the ink looked dark and steady on the page. Heather Marie Collins. Bachelor of Arts completion program. Evening and hybrid courses. Estimated graduation, 4 years. I did not tell my parents immediately. I told myself I wanted to wait until I knew I could manage it. That was partly true. The rest was fear. I knew what they would say before they said it. My mother proved me right 2 months later. We were at Sunday dinner. Meatloaf, green beans, mashed potatoes. Ryan was talking about maybe going back to Preston because his company had tuition assistance. My parents were glowing. "That would be wonderful," Mom said. "A degree opens doors." I said, "I actually enrolled this fall too." The table went quiet. My father looked up from cutting his meatloaf. "In what?" "Preston State, adult completion program, nights and hybrid." Ryan laughed. "You're going back to college?" "Yes." "At 27? My mother said, "Heather, that's surprising." "Why?" "Well," she looked at my father, "it's just a lot, with your job, and you already have work experience. I want to finish." My father placed his fork down. "I hope you're not taking on debt for pride." Ryan smirked. "Maybe we'll be freshmen together." I looked at him. "I won't be a freshman." He laughed harder. My mother said, "It's not embarrassing exactly." Exactly. That word told me everything. It's just, she continued, people may wonder why now. People? You know, family, church, your father's colleagues. It can look like you didn't quite launch properly the first time. I sat there with my grandmother's pen in my purse and felt a door close. Then I opened it myself. I'm not doing it for how it looks. My father said, "That's easy to say until people ask questions." I looked at him. Then let them ask. He did not like that. For the next 4 years, my education existed in the family like an unpaid bill no one wanted to discuss directly. When Ryan returned to Preston State at 29, my parents threw him a dinner, a banner, cake, a university sweatshirt, photos on the porch. My mother posted, "So proud of our Ryan for going after his dreams. It's never too late." I was in the second year of my program by then, taking 2 night classes while working full-time and managing a department software transition at work. I commented, "Congratulations, Ryan." My mother liked the comment but did not reply. When I made the dean's list that semester, I texted the screenshot to my parents. My father replied, "Niece." My mother replied with a thumbs-up emoji. When Ryan passed accounting with a C+, my mother posted a photo of him holding a coffee mug and wrote, "Hard work pays off." I learned to stop sending screenshots. Instead, I printed them. Dean's List. Academic Scholarship Award. Adult Learner Writing Prize. Research Assistant Certificate. Final Project Approval. I put them in a blue folder labeled Preston. The folder lived in my desk drawer beside the cedar case with Grandma Eleanor's pen. My life became a pattern of quiet effort. Wake at 6, work by 8. Lunch at my desk with the signed reading open beside my salad. Leave work at 5:30. Class at 6:15. Home by 9:20. Dinner from a container. Discussion posts by 10:30. Laundry at 11. Sleep after midnight. Repeat. I studied in parking lots, waiting rooms, laundromats, and once in the hallway outside Ryan's birthday dinner because I had a quiz due by 11:59 and my mother said it would be rude to leave early. During exams, I drank too much coffee and taped vocabulary terms to my bathroom mirror. During group projects, I worked with 19-year-olds who called me ma'am by accident and then apologized like they had injured me. During winter semesters, I walked across campus in the dark, past dorm windows glowing with lives I had not lived, carrying my laptop bag and feeling both old and exactly where I belonged. My favorite professor was Dr. Evelyn Ross, who taught organizational communication and had the rare gift of making adult students feel like experience was not academic baggage. She once wrote on my paper, "Your analysis has the strength of someone who has watched systems fail in real time." I kept that comment. It mattered more than any grade. At work, my degree began helping before it was finished. I implemented a new patient communication process. I trained staff. I wrote clearer policies. I spoke up in meetings with more confidence because my classes gave language to things I had always understood but had been taught to doubt. My boss, Angela Moreno, noticed. "Have you thought about applying for the operations director role when Keith retires?" she asked one afternoon. I laughed because I thought she was being kind. She did not laugh back. "I'm serious, Heather. I don't have the degree yet." "You will." That sentence sat with me for days. You will, not maybe. Not at your age. Not if people do not ask questions. You will. Angela became one of the few people who knew my exact graduation timeline. She adjusted my schedule during finals. She wrote a recommendation letter for the Adult Learner Honors Committee without telling me until after she submitted it. She gave me a card after my last capstone presentation that said, "Some people finish loud. Some people finish steady. Steady lasts." I cried in my car after reading it. Not because I was sad. Because sometimes, being seen, after years of being minimized, makes your body react before your pride can stop it. My family saw what they wanted. Ryan's return to school became the official family story. He struggled at first, then improved. He joined a student business association. He made friends with younger classmates who thought he was funny and worldly because he had worked in sales. He took 6 credits one semester and complained like he had been drafted into war. My parents listened with reverence. "He is really balancing a lot," Mom said. I looked at her across the table. He works part-time. School is harder when you go back. I know. She blinked. Yes, but Ryan has always had confidence issues around academics. I almost laughed. Ryan had confidence issues the way a bonfire has warmth issues. In my 3rd year, he began calling me Campus Aunt. He said it at Christmas in front of the family. So how's Campus Aunt doing? Still correcting freshmen's essays? Aunt Beverly frowned. I think Heather is doing very well. Ryan grinned. I'm kidding, she knows. I said, I do know. He did not ask what. My mother changed the subject to Ryan's internship. That became another pattern. Ryan insulted me lightly. My mother called it teasing. My father said I was too sensitive if I did not laugh, and then everyone returned to whatever Ryan needed to discuss. By my final year, I had stopped bringing school up at family dinners. Not because I was ashamed, because I had learned that some rooms do not deserve early access to your joy. I applied for graduation quietly in January. The form asked whether I wanted my name printed in the commencement program. I checked yes. It asked whether I planned to participate in the ceremony. I checked yes. It asked whether I had honors cords to pick up. I checked yes after the registrar confirmed I would graduate summa cum laude. It asked whether I wanted to be considered for adult learner recognition. I almost did not check the box. Then I thought of Grandma Eleanor's pen. Use words like they matter. I checked yes. In March, I received an email from Dean Margaret Ellison. Dear Ms. Collins, on behalf of the College of Management and Professional Studies, I am pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the Distinguished Adult Learner Recognition at this year's Spring Commencement Ceremony. Your academic record, faculty recommendations, and capstone work reflect exceptional perseverance, leadership, and scholarly achievement. Your name will be read at the beginning of the college ceremony prior to the conferral of degrees. Congratulations. Dean Margaret Ellison. I read it at my desk at work at 2:26 in the afternoon. The office phones were ringing. Someone at reception was laughing. A printer jam alert flashed on my screen. I put one hand over my mouth and stared at the email until the words blurred. Then I printed it. Blue folder. I did not tell my parents. I did tell Angela. She hugged me in her office and said, "Good. Let them read it correctly." I told Aunt Beverly too, because she had kept Grandma Eleanor's pen safe and because she knew how to hold joy without using it for leverage. She said, "Your grandmother would have worn a hat." That made me laugh. And then she said, "Are you telling your parents?" "Not yet. Heather." "I know. Do you want them surprised or ashamed?" I thought about that. I want them unable to rewrite it before it happens. Aunt Beverly was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That is a very clear answer." The breaking point came 2 weeks before graduation. My parents invited everyone to dinner to discuss Ryan's graduation weekend. My mother had printed a schedule. My father had booked a restaurant. There was talk of photos, a cake, relatives arriving, parking, seating, and who would hold Ryan's phone while he walked. I arrived after work with a folder of my own graduation information in my bag, not to make a scene, to tell them. I still wanted to believe there was room for both. My mother had decorated the kitchen with blue and gold streamers because those were Preston State's colors. A banner across the doorway said, "Congrats, Ryan." His name was written in block letters, outlined in glitter. There was a cake on the counter with a little plastic graduation cap in the frosting. Ryan stood near the refrigerator drinking from a bottle of beer. "Big day planning committee is here," he said when I walked in. I smiled faintly. "Looks like it." My mother handed me a stack of napkins. "Can you set the table?" I did. Dinner was lasagna, salad, garlic bread, and Ryan's favorite chocolate cake waiting for later. My parents asked Ryan about his ceremony. He talked about where his friends would sit, which professor he hated, whether he should decorate his cap, and how weird it would feel to be, quote, finally done. My father raised his glass. To Ryan, proof that persistence pays off. I looked at the folder beside my chair. Then I said, "I have graduation news too." The table quieted, not with excitement, with inconvenience. My mother said, "Heather, can we maybe not tonight?" I blinked. I haven't said it yet. Ryan leaned back. Let me guess. You're graduating from night school too? I looked at him. Yes. His smile froze. My father frowned. What do you mean graduating? I completed my degree. Same college ceremony as Ryan. I'll be walking too. My mother stared at me. You didn't tell us. I tried to talk about school before. That's not the same as telling us you were doing this. Doing this. Like I had planned a theft. Ryan laughed once. You're walking at my graduation? It's also my graduation. No, it's my graduation. You're in some adult program. Through Preston State. My father said, Heather, this is exactly the kind of thing that makes people uncomfortable. I looked at him. What thing? He gestured vaguely. Competing. There it was. I had worked 4 years in silence, and the moment my achievement entered the room, it became competition. My mother rubbed her temple. Why wouldn't you tell us earlier? Would it have changed anything? Yes, she said. I waited. She did not say, we would have celebrated you too. She said, we could have planned how to handle it. I felt something in me go very still. How to handle my graduation. Heather, don't twist my words. Ryan said, it's weird. You have to admit it's weird. No, I said. It's not weird for siblings to graduate the same day. It is when one of them is trying to hijack the other one's moment. Aunt Beverly, who had been sitting quietly beside my mother, put down her fork. Ryan, your sister earned her degree. Ryan rolled his eyes. I didn't say she didn't. My father looked annoyed. Beverly, please. Aunt Beverly looked at him. No, I won't please this. Heather has worked full-time and gone to school for years. My mother said, we know that. Do you? The room went silent. I almost reached for my folder then. I almost showed them the honors letter, the dean's recognition, the printed program proof. But I looked at my mother's streamer banner, my father's tight mouth, Ryan's embarrassed anger, and the cake with only one name on it. No, not this room. Not this table. Some truth deserves a microphone. I stood. My mother said, where are you going? Home. We haven't had cake. I looked at the cake. No, I said. We haven't. I left with the folder still unopened. On graduation morning, I woke at 5:40 before my alarm. My apartment was quiet. Pale light came through the blinds. For a moment, I lay still and listened to the building. Pipes, a door closing downstairs, someone's dog shaking its collar. Then I got up. I made coffee. I ironed my black dress. I opened the cedar pen case and placed Grandma Eleanor's fountain pen in my purse. I checked my cap and gown. I checked the honors cords. I checked the dean's letter. I checked the small card, with my name printed phonetically, because people often wanted to say Collins like it had a second syllable. It did not need. Heather Marie Collins. I said it out loud once. Not for practice. For witness. At 6:10, I drove to campus for graduate check-in. The sky was clear, a bright May morning after a week of rain. Preston State's campus looked almost unreal in the early light. Red brick buildings, green lawns, flowering trees, banners hanging from lampposts. Students in caps and gowns were already taking photos near the fountain. I parked in the faculty lot because the dean's office had sent me a temporary permit. That felt strange and wonderful. At the check-in table, a registrar named Bethany gave me my honors medallion and checked my name off a list. Congratulations, Miss Collins, she said. Thank you. Dean Ellison found me near the staging area at 7. She was in full regalia, with silver hair cut neatly at her jaw, and kind eyes that missed nothing. She shook my hand with both of hers. Heather, it is a pleasure to finally meet you properly. You too, Dean Ellison. Dr. Ross speaks very highly of you. That means a lot. She said your capstone was one of the clearest adult workforce retention analyses she has reviewed in 10 years. My face warmed. Dr. Ross is generous. She is selective. That made me smile. Dean Ellison handed me a small card. You'll be seated in the recognition row until your name is read. After the recognition, you'll join your degree line before conferral. We'll have someone guide you. I nodded. Thank you. Are your family members here? I looked toward the arena doors. Yes. Do they know? I paused. They know I'm graduating. They don't know about the recognition. Dean Ellison studied me for a second, not prying, just understanding more than I had said. "Well," she said, "then they will learn with everyone else." At noon, I changed into my gown, in the staging area. I pinned my hair, I attached the honors cords. I placed the tassel on the right side. I looked in the mirror, and saw a woman who looked both tired and new. Aunt Beverly found me before the ceremony. She had special seating near the accessible section because of her knee, but she came down with a staff escort. She wore a blue dress and a small hat with a ribbon because she had apparently decided to honor Grandma Eleanor's hypothetical hat. When she saw me, her eyes filled. "Oh, Heather." I laughed softly. "Is the hat too much?" "The hat is exactly enough." She hugged me carefully. "Your grandmother would be impossible today." "I wish she were here." "She is. In the pen, in the stubbornness, in the way your mother is about to swallow her own pearls." I laughed harder than I should have. Then, the staff called me to line up. Aunt Beverly squeezed my hand. "Walk like you paid for every step." I did. At 2:15, I was sitting with my family again, only briefly because the recognition seating process had me placed near the front before the formal start. But before I moved, my mother leaned across and told me not to ruin Ryan's graduation. "Your little night program, one normal day, just be gracious." I held my purse and said almost nothing. Then the procession began. After the national anthem, after the provost's welcome, after the university president spoke about resilience in the usual polished way people speak, when they are trying to apply one word to 2,000 different lives, Dean Ellison approached the podium. She adjusted the microphone. "Before we begin the conferral of degrees for the College of Management and Professional Studies," she said, "we are honored to recognize several graduates whose academic achievement and personal perseverance represent the highest values of Preston State University." My mother shifted beside me. I saw her eyes move to the program. Dean Ellison continued. "Our first recognition this afternoon is the Distinguished Adult Learner Award, presented to a student who completed her degree while working full-time, maintaining exceptional academic standing, and producing a capstone project already being used as a model for professional practice analysis." My father stopped tapping the program against his knee. Ryan turned from the graduate seating below, half interested now. Dean Ellison looked at the card in front of her. "This year's recipient is Heather Marie Collins, graduating summa cum laude with departmental honors." The sound that followed was not silence. It was worse for my family. It was applause. Large, immediate, generous applause from people who had no investment in minimizing me. For a second, I did not move. Not because I was surprised. Because my body had spent so many years being told to stay seated, that standing for myself felt like learning a new language in public. Then Aunt Beverly's voice rang out from the accessible seating. "That's my girl!" People laughed and clapped harder. I stood. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stared at the stage. Ryan's face went blank. I stepped into the aisle. Every sound became clear. The rustle of gowns, the squeak of my low heel against the arena floor, the applause moving over me like weather, the dean waiting with a medallion, the band members watching from their chairs, the photographer raising his camera. I walked. Not quickly, not dramatically. I walked like I had paid for every step. When I reached the stage, Dean Ellison smiled. "Congratulations, Heather." "Thank you." She placed the medallion over my head. It was heavier than I expected, cool against the front of my gown. Then she stepped back and said into the microphone, "Ms. Collins completed her degree through our Evening and Adult Learner program, while serving as operations manager in a healthcare administration setting. Her faculty describe her as precise, ethical, quietly formidable, and deeply committed to making systems more humane for the people inside them." Quietly formidable. That phrase entered me and found a place no family insult had reached. The applause came again. I looked out at the arena. I found my mother first. She was crying, but not in the way I had imagined. Not with pride fully. Not with shame fully. Something tangled. My father sat stiffly, his face red. Ryan looked at the floor. Aunt Beverly was clapping above her head like she was at a football game. Then Dean Ellison handed me a certificate. A photographer took the photo. Flash. There it was. Evidence. I returned to my seat in the recognition row, not beside my family. That mattered. For the rest of the ceremony, I sat among other students being honored. A veteran who had completed engineering management after 2 deployments. A single mother graduating with a supply chain degree. A man in his 60s finishing after leaving school 40 years earlier to raise his siblings. We smiled at one another with the quiet recognition of people who knew that applause, when it finally comes, never fully shows the cost. Then came the degree conferral. Ryan walked with his department. My parents clapped hard. Of course they did. I clapped too. He had finished. That mattered. His achievement did not become false because mine had been ignored. But when his name was called, he glanced toward our family section first, then toward me. I clapped calmly. His face changed. I do not know what he saw. Maybe not victory, maybe not anger, maybe the terrible inconvenience of my existence outside his shadow. When my degree line came, I walked again, this time not for recognition, but for the degree itself. Heather Marie Collins, Bachelor of Arts, summa cum laude. The dean shook my hand. The diploma cover was navy blue with the university seal embossed in gold. It was empty, of course, because real diplomas are mailed later. But that did not matter. It had weight anyway. When the ceremony ended, families flooded the arena floor. People shouted names. Balloons bounced. Graduates hugged. The band played something bright and almost too loud. I stood near Section C holding my diploma cover and certificate. Aunt Beverly reached me first. She hugged me so tightly the medallion pressed into my chest. "Your grandmother saw that," she said into my ear. "I know." Then Angela, my boss, appeared with flowers. "You didn't think I'd miss this," she said. I stared at her. "You came?" "With 3 staff members. They're parking. Badly, I assume." I laughed, and then I cried a little, because sometimes the people who show up are not the people who raised you. My parents approached slowly. My mother came first. Her eyes were red. She looked at the medallion, the certificate, the honors cords. "Heather," she said. "Just my name, no instruction inside at this time." My father stood behind her with his hands in his pockets. Ryan hung back, still in his gown, his girlfriend beside him looking deeply uncomfortable in the way outsiders often do when they realize they have been told the wrong version of someone. My mother touched the edge of my certificate. "Why didn't you tell us about the award?" I looked at her. "I told you I was graduating." "That is not the same." "No," I said, "it isn't." She swallowed. "We would have wanted to know." I waited. The arena moved around us, people laughing, shoes scuffing, camera shutters clicking, someone shouting for a cousin named Brianna. The world kept being alive while my mother looked for a version of herself that had wanted to know before the applause forced her to. I said, "When I tried to tell you, you asked how to handle it." Her face crumpled slightly. My father cleared his throat. "Your mother was surprised." "I know." He looked at the certificate. "Summa cum laude, that's good. That's good. 4 years of work, that's good." Aunt Beverly made a sound behind me that might have been a cough and might have been restraint. I looked at my father. "Yes," I said, "it is." Ryan stepped forward then. "Look, I didn't know it was a big deal." I turned to him. "It was a degree." He shifted. "I mean the award thing. You didn't need to know for it to matter." His girlfriend looked down. Ryan flushed. "Are you going to make this weird?" I almost smiled. There it was, still reaching. I looked at him in his gown, with my medallion heavy against mine. "No," I said, "I'm going to take pictures." Aunt Beverly laughed. Then Angela stepped in. "We're taking some with Heather by the stage." My mother looked startled. "With you?" Angela smiled politely. "With her workplace team, we're very proud." That did something my certificate had not. My parents saw, in that moment, that my life contained witnesses they did not control. Angela's staff arrived with flowers and a ridiculous blue balloon shaped like a star. They cheered. They hugged me. One of them, Jasmine, said, "Operations Queen," and I laughed so hard the photographer caught a picture of me with my head tilted back. That became my favorite photo from graduation. Not the stage photo, not the family photo, that one. Because no one in it was trying to make me smaller. Eventually, my mother asked for family pictures. We took them. I stood beside Ryan first, then between my parents, then with Aunt Beverly, then one awkward photo with everyone. My mother kept smoothing my gown, adjusting my cord, touching the medallion like she needed to prove she now knew it existed. After the third adjustment, I stepped back. "Mom, stop!" She froze. "I'm just fixing." "No, it's already fine." She lowered her hands. Small boundary, large history. At dinner afterward, the restaurant reservation my father had made for Ryan became, unwillingly, a joint celebration. My mother called the bakery from the parking lot and asked if they could add my name to the cake. They could not, so when dessert came, the cake still said, "Congratulations, Ryan," in blue frosting. Aunt Beverly looked at it and said, "How modern, minimalist for Heather." I laughed. My mother did not. Halfway through dinner, my father stood to toast. He looked uncomfortable. "To Ryan," he said first. Everyone lifted glasses. "Congratulations, son." Ryan nodded. Then my father looked at me, and to Heather. "We were surprised today." Aunt Beverly muttered, "That's one word." My father continued, "But proud." The word landed strangely. Proud. I had wanted it for years. I had imagined it like warmth. But when it finally arrived, late and under pressure, it felt more like a package delivered to the wrong address after I had already moved. I lifted my glass anyway. "Thank you." That was all. No speech, no correction, no dramatic airing of every wound. The proof had already spoken from a stage. After dinner, my mother followed me outside while everyone else waited for cars. The evening air was warm. The restaurant parking lot smelled like asphalt and lilacs from the landscaping near the entrance. My medallion was in my purse now, wrapped in tissue. My feet hurt. My face hurt from smiling. "Heather," Mom said. I turned. She held her clutch in both hands. "I am sorry for what I said before the ceremony." I looked at her. "Which part?" She winced. "Fair. The night classes, calling them little. Saying today was about Ryan." I waited. "And for making you feel like your degree was an embarrassment." I looked toward the road where headlights moved past in a silver line. "You didn't make me feel that," I said. "You told me you felt that." Her eyes filled. "I didn't mean it that way." "Yes, you did." She inhaled sharply. I did not soften it. That was the hardest part. Not punishing her, not rescuing her. She looked down at her shoes. "I don't know why I do that." I did. But I was tired of explaining people to themselves. "I hope you find out," I said. She nodded, crying quietly. Then she asked the question that told me she still did not understand everything. "Can we start over?" I looked at my mother, with her cream dress and pearl earrings and the same face that had looked at me across so many tables asking me to be easier. "No," I said gently. Her face fell. "We can start from here, not over." A car pulled up. Aunt Beverly rolled down the passenger window. "Heather, you comin'?" I looked at Mom. "I'm going home with Aunt Beverly." "But your father and I thought." "I know." I kissed her cheek. Then I got in the car. Aunt Beverly waited until we were out of the parking lot. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I know." "Good." I looked at the diploma cover on my lap. I thought it would feel different. "What did you think it would feel like?" "Like winning." She considered that. "Maybe it will later." Sometimes the first feeling is just not having to carry the secret anymore. That was exactly it. The aftermath did not happen in one clean wave. My mother posted graduation photos the next day. The first post was Ryan walking across the stage. The second was a family photo. The third, several hours later, was me receiving the award. The caption said, "Proud of both our Preston graduates." Both. A small word. A late word. But a word I had never had before. I did not share it. Angela's office posted my photo with a caption about adult learner achievement and announced my promotion to operations director pending final board approval. That post I did share. My father called 3 days later. Your mother says you're upset? I'm not upset. You've been distant? I've been busy. With the promotion? Yes. He paused. I didn't know it had gotten that serious. My career? Your school. I looked at the blue folder on my desk. It was always serious. He sighed. Heather, you have to understand. With Ryan, we worried more. I know. You always seemed like you could handle things. I could. That didn't mean I should have had to handle them alone. Silence. Then he said quietly, No, I suppose not. That was the closest he came to apologizing. For him, it was almost a speech. Ryan took longer. For 3 weeks, he made jokes in the family chat about me being Professor Heather and Dean's pet. I did not respond. Then Aunt Beverly replied once, Jealousy is loud today. He stopped. In July, he called me. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered. Hey, he said. Hi. Awkward silence. Then, I got offered a sales coordinator job. That's good. Congratulations. Thanks. Another silence. I wanted to ask if you could look over the offer letter. There it was. The old pattern. Heather can review, Heather can fix, Heather understands. I looked at the fountain pen on my desk. Ryan, I can, but not tonight. And I need you to ask differently. What? Not like I'm your backup office. Like I'm someone whose judgment you respect. He was quiet. Then he exhaled. Okay. Heather, would you be willing to review my offer letter because you understand this stuff better than I do? It was not perfect. It was honest enough to begin. Yes, I said. Send it tomorrow. Thanks. He paused. And the graduation thing. I was a jerk. Yes. I'm sorry. I looked out the window at the maple tree outside my apartment. Thank you. That apology was smaller than the hurt. But sometimes small honest things are more useful than large dramatic ones. I reviewed the offer letter the next day. I did not clear my whole evening. I did not rewrite it for him. I made comments in the margin and sent it back. Boundary with assistance. New skill. In September, I started my operations director role. My office had a window, a door that closed, and a small shelf where I placed my diploma, my medallion, and Grandma Eleanor's fountain pen in its open case. On my first day, Angela knocked on the door frame and said, "Looks official." I smiled. It feels official. It was official before the office. I know. And I did. That was the difference. I did not need the stage to make the work real. The stage only made it visible. People think revenge is proving everyone wrong in one grand moment. It is not. Sometimes revenge is a dean, reading your name before the room has decided whether you deserve to be mentioned. Sometimes it is applause from strangers reaching the parts of you your family kept quiet. Sometimes it is a program printed weeks before your mother tells you not to be awkward. Sometimes it is a silver pen signing a form no one clapped for. And 4 years later, the whole arena hears the result. I still have the graduation program. My mother's copy, actually. She gave it to me months later, with the corner still creased where her hand had held it during the ceremony. Inside, she had circled my name in blue ink, not Ryan's, mine. I thought you might want this, she said. I looked at the circle. When did you do that? After. Of course after, but after is not nothing. I keep it in the blue folder, with the dean's letter, the honor certificate, the first tuition receipt, the writing prize email, Angela's card, and a photograph of Aunt Beverly in that ridiculous blue hat. The cake photo is in there too. Congratulations, Ryan. No Heather. I kept it not because I am bitter, but because it tells the truth about the table I walked away from and the stage one walked toward. Both things happened. Both things made me. I am not embarrassed by night classes. I am not embarrassed by finishing later. I am not embarrassed by being 31 in a cap and gown, surrounded by students younger than the sweater I still wear in winter. I am embarrassed only by how long I let other people's discomfort stand between me and pride. Not anymore. When people ask me now how I finished while working full-time, I tell them the simple version. I made a schedule. I drank bad coffee. I studied when I was tired. I asked for help from people who actually wanted me to finish. I stopped giving early drafts of my joy to people who liked editing me out. That last part matters most. So tell me, if your family called your dream an embarrassment until the dean read your name first, would you still save them a seat in your victory? Or would you let them clap from wherever they happen to be sitting? Thank you for staying with me through this story. Some betrayals are not loud. Sometimes they are small comments made before a ceremony, a family treating your effort like an awkward footnote, or people celebrating one child while asking another to stay invisible. If you have ever finished something quietly, while the people closest to you refuse to see the work, I hope this reminded you that your timeline is not shameful. Subscribe to Ultimate Revenge for more stories about quiet women, family betrayal, silent proof, and the moment a name spoken into a microphone changes everything. There are more folders waiting, more stages being crossed, and more women learning that late does not mean lesser.